Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we have episode 184, and we've got a lot to talk about. We got a really big weekend of fights coming up that I'm very excited to talk about. Rolly Romero, Teofimo Lopez, of course, is at the top of that list. A PBC pay-per-view on DAZN from Las Vegas. But first, we have to talk with the most exhausting topic over the last few months, and that is Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. I have never heard of a fight negotiations being as difficult as this one, especially when we got the announcement that the contract had been signed, the fight is happening like 4 months ago, something like that. And it just has not stopped developing and only seeming to get worse. We heard for the longest time this fight is not going to be in the UK, which makes no sense, but that's what Netflix wants. That's what TKO wants. That's what Turkey wants. I don't really understand what TKO's position in this event is. Like, they have neither fighter. I don't understand why they're involved at all, besides Turkey just wanting Dana White and Nick Khan to be involved. But oh well. Anyways, this week's saga starts with the Daily Mail putting out that Fury versus Joshua is reportedly signed, sealed, and delivered for November 20th at Madison Square Garden. We do know that that is the planned date and location. We also know that Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua have been holding out and that they do not want the fight in America because it makes no sense to be here. It should be in the UK. Eddie Hearn said, yep, that story is completely incorrect. It is not yet signed. There is then a report that comes out, I think yesterday, which is Matchroom's addendum towards Turkey and Sella saying, here is what we need for this fight to take place at Madison Square Garden. And some of it is true, some of it is not true. Apparently there was the only thing that they were asking for should this fight take place is that they need more money because there is more taxes put onto fighters' purses in America than the UK. So Anthony Joshua said to make, let's just say, $50 million for the fight when they sign the contract for the UK. Then in America, that $50 million gets taxed heavier. So he's not actually making $50 million, and he wouldn't be making $50 million in the UK, but he'd be making even less money should he be in America. So they want it to be made so that they get to fight for the same amount, and some other little things like that. Apparently, they had also included in this said email a list of things that they want from Sella. One of which is apparently Anthony Joshua has not been paid his purse from the Christian Pranga fight a month ago. I don't understand what's going on. It feels like for the longest time, Turkey and Riyadh Season have just had this infinite money glitch, and we never question anything about what's going on. We just assume everyone's getting paid in full. Maybe that's not the case anymore. I'm guessing AJ got a pretty big purse for this Pranga fight, and they didn't say that they haven't received it, but it seems like they are still wanting a remaining amount that has not been fully given to AJ. So yeah, I would be also a little bit wary about entering into another fight with them if I haven't even gotten everything from the last fight. Another thing that was supposedly in here is no Zuffa boxing involvement. I don't know if that's true. I watched the Eddie Hearn interview with IFL. He doesn't address that part of it. So I think that may be true, and I wouldn't be surprised. They really don't want TKO involved, and I can see why. It's not TKO's fight. Why should they be? And then the last bit, and this part is true, is the undercard that Eddie wants for it. Now, it is expected and wanted from Turkey to put a certain amount of matchroom fighters in the undercard. So the ones that Eddie suggested from his stable that they could do included Jack Catterall versus Keyshawn Davis. Great fight. And, I mean, Keyshawn is a big star in America. Bam Rodriguez versus Christian Medina. That'd be unification. The hope was that this fight would headline its own card. If it's on Fury versus AJ, that would be awesome. And it looks like we are headed in that direction maybe, and that would be a great co-main event. Another fight is Murat Garcia versus Jarrell Miller. That would, of course, be for an actual heavyweight world championship, and Jarrell Miller is from New York City, so that really helps it. They also requested for Tara Moana and Odell Kamara, their newest signing, to be featured on the prelims. Look, if that was the entire Fury AJ card, I'd be very happy. Who knows what else Zuffa and Queensberry want to bring to the table for it. But yeah, so I have no issues there. There was also some things about the snooker and the darts that they are still requiring more payment from Sella on those things. That is unrelated, we have been told, to the actual addendum for the Fury AJ fight. So it kind of took, over Twitter as Eddie Hearn is making all these demands. If they want to do the fight, then all these things need to happen. It's more so, here's my one or two demands. Also, we got to handle this other stuff. But look, so all this stuff's happening. Tyson Fury this morning saying that the fight is in serious doubt. He doesn't even think it'll happen. And this is just, if they if they are not able to get this deal over the line, then I have like lost my faith completely in the sport. Like how can you not make this fight happen for the people, but also it doesn't make any sense. Like it was literally signed. Like what is the hold up? I mean, I understand. Look, we all want the fight to be in the UK, but at some point, it's just got to happen. Um, and I would much rather this fight take place in America than not at all. I would. So I hope we can all get it figured out. This whole saga is so exhausting. I just want an announcement made ASAP so we can just be done with it and move on and have the fight actually happen. But with that out of the way, let's get into the weekend's fights. Top of the list, like I said, Rolly Teofimo. I'm really happy this fight is happening. These are two of our American young guys that are around this lightweight, super lightweight, welterweight division that we really need to see more fights between them because they're all big stars and they're great fights. And Rolly and Teo are setting an example as being two guys who are generally friends, and they are willing to put that to the side and make the fight happen. Now, I do think that this whole friendship avenue of the promotion has been a little bit overplayed, and they're kind of pushing it a lot. Like these guys are best friends, and I think largely because guys like Shakur and Keyshawn would never fight each other because they're really good friends. I don't think that Teo and Rolly are that great of friends. I think that they're buddies, and I think that they see each other in a good light, but I don't think they're best friends. And even now, I think that Teo has said, like, look, like we're not like the best friends ever. We're definitely cool with each other, but there was some spice at that press conference yesterday where it's getting to the heating point, and he's like, look, I don't want to – I'm sick of everyone talking about us like we're friends. Like, yeah, maybe, but I'm not his friend anymore, and I got to go beat him, and have to be in that mindset. So I actually think there's a little bit more animosity going into this fight now. I'm excited. I see it as winnable for both men. Teo is coming off one of probably the worst performance of his career. He looked horrible against Shakur Stevenson. Granted, that was against Shakur. Nobody looks good against Shakur, and he's coming up in weight. He had long said he wanted to go to 147. Now he finally is. He weighed in right at 147. Rolly coming off of a boring fight, but a big win over Ryan Garcia that got him this world title. And the thing with Rolly is he does have power. He is very, very strong. And I think that he can catch Teo. But I cannot pick him against Teo. I think it's a really close fight on paper, but just in my head, I'm like, Teofimo has beaten the better guys. He has the better resume. I think he's a lot more skilled than Rolly, but we need to see that great Teofimo. If he's so inconsistent of a fighter. When he fought Barboza, he looked fantastic. Shakur looked horrible. Guys like Sandor Martin, he looks terrible. Lomachenko, one of the best wins in the last 10 years of any fighter, because he's just so surprising. So I think that Teo is going to get this win over on Rolly, probably by decision. He's not a knockout puncher, at least not anymore. I don't even know when his last stoppage was. It's been years. So I'm picking Teo by decision. I think it could be a competitive fight, and I'm excited for it. And look, I wouldn't be surprised if Rolly's able to get a win, but I would see that as a decent upset. I think Teofimo is. Look, before the Shakur fight, people were talking about him as like top 15 pound for pound. I don't know if anybody's ever talked about Rolly like that, and that says enough. Undercard, I think he's actually got some good fights, but it's disappointing for a pay-per-view. Co-main event, Yoeli Hernandez or Francisco Verón. Hernandez, one of the best middleweights in the world. Verón is a really, really solid middleweight. He's been getting some great wins on Pro Box over the last few years. I think that he will make it a dogfight for Hernandez, but I do not think that he will beat him. I don't know if he gets stopped because he's a really, really tough Argentinian, but I do think Yoeli Hernandez will win this fight quite widely probably on the scorecards, but it could be a war. And I'm excited. I really want to see Yoeli finally get his shot at a world title because it's been too long. Speaking of, you got an interim world title fight at 122 between Victor Santillán and Gary Antonio Russell. So a second Russell brother could be holding a world title soon, in a way, likely to vacate the titles at 122 pretty soon. This will be a tough fight for Russell. Looking at Santillán's record, his most notable fights are losses to Tenshin Nasukawa, a loss to Sho Ishida. He's coming off of a win over Noel Reyes Cepeda. I don't even know who you would consider his best win. So, I am probably leaning in the favor of Gary Antonio Russell. I don't know. I need to see more from him. He fought one time. He fought 1 year ago in an 8-rounder, won that. Before that, it was a year before that, it was winning a 6-rounder. And then it was 2 years before that when he lost to Emmanuel Rodriguez. So he's only fought twice in the last 4 years, and they were not even against real opposition. So I don't know. I mean, he has the pedigree to beat him, but does he have the activity? Carlos Utria, one of the most hyped up prospects in the entire sport. He makes his PBC debut, opening up the main card. He won the WBC Grand Prix last year in a 10 round against Israel Mercado, who is a pretty tough and fun kind of club level fighter. So that should be a good opener. I think Utria gets that one done. Probably inside the distance. Prelims, not really much to write home about. UFC is back in Sacramento, I believe, for the first time in a few years. Main event, I really like it. Fluffy versus RoboCop, Anthony Hernandez, Gregory Rodriguez. This is Fluffy's first fight since the loss to Sean Strickland. He was a favorite going into that fight. RoboCop coming off of a string of really good wins, 3 in a row for him. Jack Hermanson, Roman Kopylov, and then Bruno Ferreira, which was a crazy one. He is, of course, just a unit at this weight class. Like, he is so big for middleweight. And but Fluffy is so dangerous. And I heard a stat the other day that every fight in the UFC that Fluffy's gotten a takedown in, he's won. Every fight he hasn't gotten in, he's lost. So it is very much a do or die matter in that regard for Fluffy. I think that he's going to be able to beat RoboCop, though that's just my prediction. I do not think that this fight goes the distance because both guys are such dangerous fighters, but I do think that Fluffy will be able to get those takedowns in and make this a little bit more of a wrestling exchange because power for power, I don't know if he can hang with RoboCop. I don't know if anyone can really hang with power with RoboCop, but should be a really good fight. I'm excited for that one. Co-main event, Sergey Spivak, Vitor Petrino. Not sure why this is the co-main. It's another one of those fights where those top-ranked heavyweights who just haven't really been doing anything in the division fight an up-and-coming heavyweight. And that's what this is. I mean, Spivak, literally his last fight was against Ante Delia. Before that, it was a 1-2 fight losing streak. Win-loss here and there. I mean, there's not really a whole lot going on with Spivak. He's a little bit more up there. Petrino, on the other hand, coming up. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak in the UFC. I think he'll get one over on Spivak, but it'll be a close fight. Because, again, you don't get to be at the top of the division, number 6 ranked heavyweight for nothing. So that should be a good fight, although I'd prefer the co-main to be the next fight, and that is Reinier de Ridder versus Roman Dolidze. This is the first fight for RDR at light heavyweight. It is also the return to light heavyweight for Dolidze. These are both middleweights. RDR already looks much better on the scale. I saw he was smiling, and that's a good sign. I mean, I think that he had issues with cardio in the past. I think that was partially weight, but also due to him having just so much activity in 2025. That's why he lost that Brendan Allen fight. The Kaio fight, probably a little bit more weight issues. I think Dolidze is good, but he hasn't impressed me in recent anywhere near as much as RDR has impressed me in the last year or two. So, yeah, I think that RDR will definitely win that fight. Markel Medeiros versus Mason Jones should be a really fun one. I'm a big fan of Jones. I think he wins that fight. Carly Judice, she's a big favorite over Gisela Chavez. She's actually really exciting striking, and I think that she'll get the win here. And I actually saw that if she wins this fight, because she'll then have like 5 fights in the UFC, then she will be the highest, should she continue up her thing, have the highest significant strike per minute in UFC history. Right now is Joshua Van. She may pass him, which is insane. And then you also get the debut of Anthony Wynn. He just fought on Contender Series 11 days before this. Now he fights Terrence Chapman. He's absolutely going to send him to the Shadow Realm, I think, probably within a minute. I'm really excited that he's already making his debut. That's sick. Prelims, Larion Douglas takes on Jamal Emmers. Should get a win there. Shamil Gatziev versus Kennedy Nzechukwu. This is pure heavyweight slop. I really don't even know who's going to win. Probably Gaziev, but I don't know. Chris Padilla versus Nasrat Hakparast is actually a pretty good fight. The odds are very close there. Marcio Barboza versus Ryan Coos. He's a huge favorite in that one. Gage Young versus Stan Dorsainville. The battle of I heard one of them said this is White Jesus versus Biblically Accurate Jesus, and Wes Schultz versus Jackson McVeigh. They look the exact same, both with long hair. And then Chanel Dyer returns, first time in a few months, fighting Elise Reed. So a pretty good fight night for Sacramento, California. Looking forward to that. Also, this weekend tonight is the MVP TikTok card. Now, I think this card is decent. Amanda Serrano headlines 12 2-minute rounds, which I prefer to 12 3-minute rounds or even 10 3-minute rounds for the women. She'll be fighting Lucretia Manzur. And look, the entire purpose of this fight is for her to break the all-time KO record. That's what they did with her last fight. They're going to try and do it again here. Should she win, she officially passes Christy Martin. Right now they're tied. And, I hope that she can do it. And because also I want to see Amanda in more real fights. And when you look there's been a lot of GOAT conversation over the last week or so because of Clarissa Shields' win last week. And a lot of people comparing resumes. You look at Amanda Serrano's resume, outside of Katie Taylor, it's not that great. She hasn't fought that many other top pound for pound fighters. And I mean, really, in her last 10 fights, she's been huge favorites in all of them. So I do really want to see better matchmaking with her because stuff like this just isn't that interesting to me. I hope she gets the knockout, but we'll see. Mayeli Flores versus Melissa Mortensen. That's a WBA Super Bantamweight World Title fight. I actually think that's a decent enough fight, so I'm excited for that. Avius Griffin is back, another 10-rounder taking on Jackson Martinez, so that could be good. Jamal Harvey, he gets to be co-main event. He's obviously a great prospect they've got. And then a lot of other good fighters they have, like Keno Marley's great, Nelvi Tiafak, heavyweight, Julie Polka, who's a Misfits fighter, turned pro. And then you also got like Roxy Verduzco, Lupita Medina. Yeah, it should be a fun night. The most notable thing about this event is it's not on ESPN like the other cards. It is on TikTok Live, which is cool. You know, it's cool that MVP is doing yet another new thing, the first to do this, and they're going to do it, and it's going to be surely do good numbers because people will scroll past it for a second, and that'll count as a viewership. And they'll be able to, you know, cross off another form of media introduced to boxing that they did. And so I think that is cool. But I'm not happy about this because I'm a little bit worried about how I'm going to watch it. Like, I like to watch boxing on my TV. I don't like to watch it on my phone. I certainly don't like to watch it vertically, you know, as if I'm watching a normal TikTok. Like, is the screen going to be condensed into the middle of the screen for a phone? Is it going to be expanded? Do I have to turn it sideways? Like, can I watch it on my TV? Do I have to watch this on my phone or like a tablet? Like, it's just really confusing to me. And I hope I'm able to watch it in a way that is enjoyable, but I don't know. I don't know if TikTok works for actual main sporting events. You know, I don't know if it does. What else? PFL Tampa was meant to be the retirement fight of Chris Cyborg. It seems like that's not the case anymore. She defends her featherweight title against Caitlin Vieira. It is the last fight of her deal. It's first fight in the PFL for Vieira after leaving the UFC. A tougher fight than I think Chris Cyborg's used to in her last few. So I think it could be good, but I do think Cyborg is a decent favorite here. She's one of the GOATs. One of the quotes, I should say. Co-main event, Ghazi Rabadanov is back taking on Tracy Reeder. I imagine he's a really big favorite in that fight. Talia Santos versus Sabrina De Sousa is on the main card. That's actually not a bad. And then Luke Traynor versus Ronald Dunlap, who's undefeated. So some other, some good stuff. Marceli Alves versus Nkosi Indebele is a pretty good fight at the top of the card. Magomed Magomedov, he's back taking on Daniel Marcos. Movsar Ibrahimov versus Javid Bashrat, who's out of the UFC now. Gino Van Steenis, brother of Castel Van Steenis. Florim Zendelli literally headlined one of their last cards, but he lost, so he's now way down the prelims. There's a lot of good stuff on that card, so hopefully it's good. You got a matchroom event in the UK. George Liddard headlines yet again against Dario Morello, and this is the European Championship. So another checkbox thing for Liddard. He's doing it all the right way. He's English champion, then British, Commonwealth, European, and then after this is going to be world honors. So he's really got to look good here because he's gone everything so quickly and he's so young. I don't know if he's ready to go in and fight like a world champion, but Denzel Bentley's a guy they've talked about. So we'll see how good he looks. We'll see what Morello is made of. I do think Liddard will win the fight, but again, I really don't know anything about Morello. Co-main event, weirdly, is Lely Buttigieg taking on P.A. Gordon, who's also undefeated, fighting for the English Championship. Buttigieg's last fight was a war. I don't know if this warrants a co-main event, but it should be fun. Jimmy Sains takes on Tom Cowling for the Commonwealth title. That is a really tough fight. Sains did not look good last time. Cowling upset Aaron Bowen last time out. So that's a really good fight. I like that one. And then TMA Ayton, this is her first 10-rounder fighting Ellie Hallowell for the Commonwealth Championship. Another step up, but I think she can do it. She's really good. Pat McCormack was meant to be on the card. He had a minor injury. Hopefully he can be back out in September, October. And then you got one of the Croft twins, Eoin. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Guerin is on the next show. Harley Burroughs, Louis Ward, Connor Mitchell. Hopefully it's a fun night at the Copper Box. No longer the Copper Bosch, but the Copper Box. And then lastly, BKFC is also tonight back in the Mohegan Sun. They always have great cards. I'm particularly excited for this one. The main event, not a title fight, but it's a great fight. Bryce Henry versus Carlos Trinidad Snake. These are two very exciting guys in BKFC. Trinidad is the one loss to Austin Trout, whereas Bryce Henry, he has been looking really good in his last few fights. Like, just a really fun, exciting fighter. I think it's like his third fight of the year or something, so I love that main event. Co-main is Cody Vidal versus Joseph Carrier. So that'll be at the Mohegan Sun tonight. All right, let's get into some other stuff, I do want to talk about Dana White's Contender Series because we had a phenomenal Contender Series card this past Tuesday. It was insane. Main event, one of the most notable guys probably in the whole season of Contender Series, Namo Fazil. He fights in the main event against Kike Brito. It's competitive. He's taking a lot of shots, though. And then entering the third round, like 10 seconds in, he gets knocked out cold. One of the best knockouts of the year. The shot was insane. It was crazy. It was super exciting. And look, he's a guy that talks a lot of trash. And when you don't back it up, and especially if you get knocked out like that, you're going to get fried on Twitter. He got destroyed. He got destroyed on Twitter. It was very funny. But yeah, shout out to Brito. So he got a UFC contract. Insane knockout win. Trent Miller had a very impressive second-round submission. Christian Perez, insane second-round knockout. Alec Lorenz, great first-round knockout. And then the first fight of the night was a war between Roman Puga and Tanner Tremblay. So all the winners got bonuses, as did Tremblay, because they just put on a war. I mean, one of the best Contender Series cards, people are saying that we've ever had. This is my first year actually like watching the card, so I can't say, but it was a phenomenal event. Every fight was great, and they literally give out 6 contracts. They usually only give out 4, so it kind of speaks volumes about how great the fights were. All right, let's get into some big news, starting with there are plans underway for the Mizuho Pepe Dome Fukuoka, which is a big stadium in Japan, to host the Naoya Inoue Bam Rodriguez fight in February to break the all-time Japanese attendance record for boxing, which previously like 55,000 probably. Bam will be offered $6.265 million in the USD. That's a huge offer. I mean, I think people don't realize that that's big money, probably bigger than any person that Bam has gotten. I think he can get more out of it, but still, I mean, that's great. And hopefully, dude, it's just that I feel like this is kind of getting pushed back more and more. Bam wants to fight Medina in maybe November, October time, probably November, and then go into this one. I hope we can make it happen. I really do hope it happens. Big announcement made by Misfits. Dean the Great versus Henry Cejudo is official for September 26th in Miami. It is a really good fight, I think. I mean, Dean, he's kind of popped back up with all this AB stuff on Kick and whatnot. I feel like he's a name again. And Cejudo just retired from the UFC. He obviously still wants to compete in some way. He's been doing RAF. I mean, great. Look, he's a wrestler, and we're going to talk about this. Like, oh, Dean's fighting a wrestler, which is true, but he's still a UFC champion. He still knows how to box. I think this is definitely a tough fight for Dean. I think Dean is certainly a favorite, for sure. But it's a big one. It's definitely one of the biggest fights that Misfits has made. And apparently it may be a pay-per-view. Now, if you have DAZN Ultimate, this doesn't really matter, but I think this is a really big stretch to put on pay-per-view. And they're going to need to really stack the undercard if that is the case. So we shall see. We also got the first round of undercard fights announced for UFC 332, October 3rd. Davison Figueiredo versus Peyton Talbot. We knew that one. It's a good one. Johnny Walker, heavyweight debut against Mick Parkin. Much, much better debut, I think, than what they were planning to do with him. Marvin Vettori versus Ismail Nardiev. Decently matched fight. Ateba Gautier versus Roman Kopylov. So a step up for Gautier. I would still like him to get a ranked fight, but he's got to lock in for that one. Damian Pinas versus Andrei Pulaev. That's a good fight. I love Pinas. Pause. Emmanuel Rodriguez versus Alden Correa, and then Court McGee versus Eric Nolan. So a decent amount of fights announced for the first batch, but I hope that there's more. I mean, I feel like the last card was so bad, just in terms of talking about the undercard. This one's already better than that probably, but, we haven't gotten our main or co-main event yet. The rumors are that it could be Harrison Nunes and Shevchenko Silva, which some people are upset with. I'm perfectly fine with a women's MMA main event, especially if we get 2 title fights on it. I would be more than happy if that was our main and co-main event, especially considering that means that the rest of the fights for the year will probably be loaded with even more fights, even bigger fights. Jermell Charlo says that he is not fighting Virgil, but Tim Tszyu instead next. Look, I think that's a better fight for him. I think it's a better fight for Tim Tszyu. I think it's a good idea for Virgil to not fight Jermell Charlo, who hasn't fought in 3 years. It is still a little bit like, what is Tim Tszyu doing just fighting these guys who haven't fought in 3 years? But, I mean, look, he has not looked great in the last year or two himself. So probably he needs to kind of have that step down in competition. And then maybe he will get a title shot against Lara or someone like that. Hamza Shiraz says he has 1 fight left with Queensberry and that he will explore Zuffa boxing. Now, this one is really surprising to me because I feel like he has been just one of the faces of Queensberry. And I mean, look, like he has his deal, I would imagine they're going to try and really sign him again. He says, like, look, we're going to talk to Queensberry, but he is going to explore Zuffa boxing. He may end up going down that route. I hope he doesn't because he's a world champion. I don't want another world champion in Zuffa because it's just so much harder to deal with all the sanctioning body stuff there. I don't know. I mean, he's a hot ticket. His last performance was not great. I also wouldn't be surprised if he ends up kind of being exclusive to Ring Magazine shows. I mean, I think his last 6 fights now have all been on Turkey shows. He hasn't fought on a Queensberry card in like literally almost 3 years. So that may just be his future. Is just being straight up with Ring and no actual promoter besides that. Denzel Bentley also says that he is a free agent. So that's 2 Queensberry world champions they could be losing. And he says that he wants to fight Liam Smith in November. I don't like that. I know that Liam Smith is a big name. In fact, he's actually going to fight like in the next, I think he's fighting early September against Iliari Kujala, who was 12-0 in Finland. So he wants to get an under-radar fight, get a ranking or something. I don't really have a lot of interest in Smith getting a world title shot. I just don't think that he's earned it at all. We're hearing that George Kambosos is in discussions to fight Liam Paro early next year. I don't like that one either. I don't think that he has earned a world title shot. His last fight was a loss. Same with Smith. And it's just I don't like these guys getting world title shots when they haven't earned them, and they're not the same fighters they once were. I mean, we do know that Paro and Haney are still in negotiations, just much earlier stages. I think it is going to be Paro Kambosos. It's a big fight for Australia. I know he's still a big name, and Smith is still a big name too. But I would much rather Bentley fight George Littard or somebody like that. And there's plenty of other names. Andy Cruz is also a free agent from Matchroom apparently, which I think I heard, but he is now officially a free agent with them. So we'll see where he goes starting at 130. Maybe he'll go to Top Rank or someone like that. Maybe even ends up at Zuffa. I don't know. Unfortunate news that Yair Rodriguez is out of the UFC No Chain main event. This is especially upsetting because he has been so inactive, and to have his first fight booked in literally a year and a half and then fall out of it is just so like, what are we doing here? Like, he's going to have to be taken out of the rankings. But they already have a replacement, Jose Delgado, who I'm glad it's a Mexican. That's cool. But a lot of people are upset with the opponent because John Silva he's very overmatched against John Silva, and I think that is true. Floyd Schofield and Lucas Body have reportedly signed for October 10th in Chicago. A bit of a random location, but looks like Golden Boy's returning. Kenneth Sims will more than likely be on the card as he's from Chicago. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a great fight, and it's another fight for DAZN, it would seem. Johnny Fisher is going to be fighting Michael Pirotin, who is 12-2 from Belgium. Yeah, about the level you would have expected. A seemingly decent European heavyweight. Nobody with a name. Nobody who poses a ton of risk. They were never even going to have him fight Harvey Dykes. He was always going to be someone like this. And that is that, I guess. PFL announced they'll be back in Chicago as well, October 16th. Liz Carmouche versus Jenna Bishop 2 for the flyweight title. I don't mind the fight itself. I am a little bit upset that the title's on the line. I mean, look, I've been saying that PFL needs to, bring in more champions and just start making title fights, this is what that is. But I also feel like Dakota Ditcheva is so much the best fighter in that division. How can you have a title fight without her? And I know her hands are broken. She can't fight. But why did we wait until she was injured to actually make a title fight happen? Like, she should have been fighting for the title 2 years ago. Like, why did it just now happen? They also announced that they will be back in Dubai on November 14th, so we'll see who headlines that. Matchroom announced the undercards for their October card. So the 3rd, Whitaker Wallace. You got Bilal Fawaz taking on Ethan James in the co-main. Good fight, good British level fight. Ethan James moving a little bit up in weight. He's had some losses in the last few fights, but actually last 4 fights he's on a 4-fight win streak. I'm guessing he hasn't really fought anyone. Fawaz is a really good British level guy. Sean Bruce will fight Hamza Udine for the British flyweight title. So first fight for Udine in a while, but he's gonna get a big shot there. I think he is meant to fight in August, and then he'll have another fight. But it'll be his 8th pro fight. Ibrahim Suleiman taking on Sonny Hardy. Both those guys are undefeated. Clinton Baptiste versus Aaron Bowen. That's a Midlands area title, so another competitive fight for Bowen. And then Adam Mock will be on the card, as will be the pro debut of Odell Kamara, who, of course, they are very excited about, so that'll be good. And then October 24th, the Smith Puello card. Giorgio Vizioli versus Maxie Hughes in the co-main. Another big step up for Vizioli. I mean, I think Hughes is gone, but he is still proven to be somewhat competitive and is at lightweight, not super lightweight, where literally like not even just a year ago, he was almost a mandatory for the WBA title at lightweight. So here he is, fighting Vizioli. you could give him some problems. We'll see. But Vizzioli's a really good prospect. I really like that. This is a big step up. He'll be a contender after he wins this fight. That's a great co-main. Shannon Ryan rematching Emma Dolan. This is the only loss she's ever had. Emma Dolan coming off that world title loss. This is for the British and Commonwealth belts. Let's run it. Ed Hardy taking on Ibrahim Nadim, who just lost to Suleiman. Big step up for Ed Hardy, first 10 rounder. I like that fight. Aqib Fiaz versus Jordan Flynn was meant to happen earlier this year. Now it's going to happen on a Matchroom show. It's a great fight. Joe Hayden versus Will Harrison, decently matched 8-rounder, it would seem. And Leo Atang is on the card, as is Chris Malunda. So good matchup cards in the UK in October. Fortunately, the planned 7v7 with Queensberry is now likely to happen in 2027 after Callum Smith, Joshua Buatsi 2 is not happening because Bivol versus Smith is going to be happening. They ordered purse bids today. I don't think they'll need them. UK, Russia, and Monaco are all options for that fight. I love the Monaco shows. I think it should have a crowd, though, because this is such a big fight. And, I'm disappointed that the 77 is not happening this year. I don't think it will ever really happen because it just seems so difficult to make, especially without Turkey. I want to see Joshua Buatsi fight before then, though. Like, where has he been? Dina Thorsland is in talks to defend her titles against Francesca Hennessy. I mean, this could be big, dude. It's not a huge fight, and happy for Hennessy, I guess, but it's a big fight opportunity for for Thorsland to go to the UK, make some money, maybe headline on the BBC, maybe be on the undercard of Clarissa Shields, Lauren Price. That feels like it's a great spot for it to go on. But yeah, I'd be down with that. I think Thorsland totally dominates her, though. Katie Taylor's retirement fight will be free to broadcast on RTE in Ireland, so a lot of eyes on that fight. The IBF ordered a super middleweight eliminator between Nikita Zone, who fought on the last Bivol card, and Malik Zanad, who actually fought Bivol himself, moving down to 168. I think that's a decent fight, Z versus Z, and the winner will be mandatory for Osis Iglesias. And a little bit disappointed because I want to see Iglesias fight big names, and his last fight was against Pavel Silyagin. Next is Oliver Zarin. Then it's the winner of this fight. Like, they're not horrible fights, but it's just they're not big names. And then lastly, I just threw this on here. James Osborne will be fighting George Crotty December 6th in York Hall. I really like these top tier shows. Like, that's a really well matched and just kind of fun fight. I really like James Osborne. He won the GBM Heist tournament last year. By the way, where's GBM? I don't know. But look, great weekend coming up with the fights. Rolly Teofimo will be awesome. UFC Sacramento I'm excited for. Hope the Serrano card on TikTok is good and it's, entertaining to watch and it's not a pain, but we shall see. Thank y'all so much for listening and peace out.